The true face of irresponsibility. How I saved the one I loved. I never imagined a phone call could turn my life upside down in a matter of minutes. My name is Clara. I'm 32 years old. I work from home on graphic design projects, and I live with my husband Pedro in a routine I've always found peaceful. I grew up in a normal family, learned to value responsibility and commitment, and always believed that caring for those in need was a priority. But that day, my entire idea of normalcy was shattered. I was finishing a project on the computer with coffee cooling nearby when my cell phone rang. On the other end, Juliana, my sister-in-law and mother of 3-year-old Serena, was raising her voice and asking me to immediately go and care for her daughter. At first, I thought it was an exaggeration, a momentary crisis, but I soon realized how serious it was. Juliana had left the child alone at home, without warning, without preparation. I felt my heart race, my chest tighten, and a mixture of anger and fear overwhelmed me. Pedro noticed my expression and understood the gravity of it immediately. I could feel my hands shaking, and a physical sense of urgency came over me, as if I needed to run before something bad happened. When I explained the situation to Pedro, he didn't hesitate. He dropped everything, grabbed the keys, and we headed straight to Juliana's apartment. Every second of the drive felt like an eternity. My chest ached, and my mind raced with worst-case scenarios. Once there, we saw clear signs of abandonment, scattered toys, leftover food, and Serena alone, crying in her room. The tightness in my chest transformed into a physical impulse of protection. I hugged the girl as if I could absorb her pain. In that embrace, I felt complete responsibility. It wasn't just a gesture of comfort, but a silent promise that no one would ever leave her helpless again. We called Child Protective Services, and this decision brought a mixture of relief and guilt. Relief because Serena would finally be safe. Guilt because we knew this would drastically change Juliana's life. Seeing Serena's confused and frightened little eyes as we explained that we were caring for her broke me inside. My body reacted physically with every emotion. Tense shoulders, a tight stomach, and involuntary tears. I knew there was no going back. My responsibility was greater than any feeling of pity for Juliana. The days that followed were intense. Juliana, instead of taking responsibility, began manipulating family and friends, playing the victim. Every call or text from her was like a punch in the gut, causing physical and emotional pain, anxiety, tension in my shoulders, and a racing heartbeat. I found myself torn between anger, frustration, and fear for Serena's future. Pedro constantly reminded me that we were doing the right thing, even when external pressure tried to bring me down. I spent sleepless nights thinking about Serena alone, remembering every detail, scattered toys, her fragile, tearful voice, the silence interrupted by crying. Each memory caused physical and emotional pain, cold hands, a racing heart, a knot in my stomach. But it was in this chaos that I discovered strength I hadn't known existed. A quiet determination grew within me, reminding me that my priority was to protect Serena, to face manipulation, and to maintain the child's emotional stability, even when everything seemed to be crumbling around me. In the following days, the impact of what had happened began to materialize in my daily life. Juliana refused to accept responsibility and began manipulating family and friends, spreading a false narrative that we were the villains. I felt every phone call or text from her as if it were a physical blow, tightness in my chest, cold and trembling hands, constant anxiety. My body seemed to be on constant alert, as if expecting something to happen to Serena at any moment. Pedro was my rock, holding my hand, reminding me that we were doing the right thing. But still, there were times when I felt alone, doubting my choices, wondering if Serena would hate us for taking her away from a neglectful mother. The meetings with social workers and lawyers were exhausting. Every word spoken, every detail shared about Juliana's neglect felt like a ton of weight. I left exhausted, my head pounding, my shoulders tense, and my heart racing. Inside, I struggled with guilt and fear, but I knew I had to be firm. Serena needed reassurance, and that was more important than any temporary discomfort. I began to understand that overcoming challenges involves not only facing others, but also facing our own feelings of doubt and fear. Each small victory, a smile from Serena, a word of reassurance, a compliment from the social worker, was like fresh air amidst the chaos. Juliana still tried to manipulate family members, seeking support to discredit our efforts. every phone call and every conversation about us with others increased my anxiety, caused tension in my body, and sometimes I cried alone in my room. But little by little, I realized that I couldn't control other people's perceptions. I could only act consciously and keep Serena safe. I learned to separate what I could control, my behavior, my patience, my protection, from what was beyond my control. It was a hard but necessary lesson that helped me grow emotionally. There were times when I considered giving up, so emotionally exhausted was I. I felt drained with sleepless nights remembering Serena alone at home, suffering. But with every hug she gave me, every shy smile, my strength returned. I realized my responsibility was greater than any discomfort. Serena needed stability and security, and I could provide that. My physical body responded to each loving gesture. Tension eased, breathing calmed, and my heartbeat slowed, bringing a sense of purpose. During this time, I also began to notice changes in myself. The stress was still there, but my confidence grew. I learned to document everything, to remain calm in the face of accusations, and to make decisions clearly, even under pressure. Every misstep was a lesson, and every small success, like Serena asking for my lap, smiling, feeling protected, reinforced that we were on the right path. I was learning to transform fear, guilt, and anger into conscious action, protection, and love, and this began to strengthen me from the inside out. As the custody case progressed, the emotional toll intensified. Every hearing, every meeting with lawyers, every call from Juliana trying to guilt me left my heart racing, my throat dry, and a knot in my stomach that wouldn't go away. I found myself questioning my choices countless times a day. Am I overreacting? Will Serena hate me for taking her mother away? The nights were long, filled with racing thoughts and nightmares of the girl alone, crying, and vulnerable. I felt every emotion physically: trembling hands, tightness in my chest, a headache throbbing behind my eyes. But deep down, a quiet strength began to grow within me, reminding me that I had to keep going for Serena. There were times when I thought I couldn't do it. Juliana's manipulation of family and friends, and the constant veiled accusation that we were cruel, almost made me give in. But every time I looked at Serena, with her trusting eyes and small hands reaching for mine, I felt renewed determination. I needed to be firm, even if it meant facing criticism or unfair accusations. Taking a deep breath, composing myself, and carrying on was my strategy to not let myself be shaken. Every gesture of hers, every shy smile, became fuel for my emotional resilience. The process forced me to mature quickly. I learned to document everything, keep detailed records, and deal with lawyers and child protection professionals. Every misstep, every seemingly small decision had repercussions. But I realized that mistakes are part of learning. What matters is the ability to bounce back. My body still reacted physically to every pressure: tension in my shoulders, cold hands, a headache. But my mind became clearer, learning to focus on what I could control and not get lost in Juliana's manipulation. Pedro was my constant support. He held Serena while I cried in the room, allowing my vulnerability to surface without making me feel weak. I discovered that being human and showing emotion didn't diminish my strength. On the contrary, it helped me reconnect with what truly mattered. The physical emotions remained intense: rapid breathing, pounding heart, tightness in my chest, but there was a growing sense of purpose. I was becoming more grounded and aware of the importance of protecting Serena. Over time, I also noticed changes in Serena herself. She began to trust more, smile, and seek comfort from me and Pedro. Every laugh, every gesture of affection was a sign that we were on the right path. I learned that overcoming doesn't mean the absence of pain, but rather continuing even when it's present. Each small step, each emotional victory, strengthened us as a family and taught me to transform fear, anxiety, and anger into concrete, loving action. The direct confrontation with Juliana was inevitable. When we finally met in court, I felt butterflies in my stomach that seemed to permeate my entire body. Every word she said, every expression of mock victimhood, made me tense, my muscles rigid, and my heart racing. I wanted to scream, to cry, but I needed to maintain my composure for Serena. The physical sensation was intense: sweaty palms, a dry throat, a tightness in my stomach that wouldn't go away. Pedro discreetly held my hand, reminding me that we weren't alone. In that moment, I realized that overcoming wasn't just about protecting Serena, but also about confronting Juliana's manipulation and bruised ego. I needed to stay centered, even when my entire body was screaming for a different reaction. Juliana tried to manipulate the system and the people around her convincingly. Forced tears, emotional words, a narrative of injustice. Each session increased my physical stress, racing heartbeat, shaking hands, dizziness. But little by little, I learned to remain calm, document everything, and act with clarity. Each small victory, like an accepted document or a favorable statement from a social worker, was a physical and emotional relief, a breath of fresh air amidst the chaos. Each victory reinforced the certainty that we were doing the right thing despite the constant tension. At the same time, I had to deal with a divided family. Some distanced themselves, others advised us to compromise, and all of this caused more tension, tightness in my chest, headaches, constant anxiety. But I learned to separate my emotional life from Juliana's attempts at manipulation. The focus needed to be on Serena's safety, not on the opinions of others. Every caring gesture, every smile from the girl was a reminder that we were building trust and stability despite the turbulent environment. It was weeks of adjustments, small victories, and mistakes too. I often felt like I couldn't take it anymore, mentally and physically exhausted. But Pedro constantly reminded me of the importance of our mission. I learned to trust my instincts, even when it seemed like everything was against us. Each hug from Serena, each gesture of affection, brought physical relief. Tension eased, breathing calmed, heartbeat slowed. It was a reminder that her protection was worth every effort. In the end, custody was awarded to us, and Juliana lost hers. It wasn't a simple victory. It required patience, emotional strength, and a willingness to face manipulation and accusations. Seeing Serena safe, happy, and confident by our side brought a deep physical sense of relief. Chest light, breathing regular, heart at peace. I realized that overcoming the situation didn't just mean protecting a child, but also discovering my own resilience and ability to act firmly in the face of injustice. After the court ruling, I finally felt a huge weight lift from my shoulders, but the relief was mixed with painful memories of sleepless nights and constant stress. My body still bore the signs of the emotional trauma: tense shoulders, occasional insomnia, sudden anxiety, but there was something different, an inner strength that grew with each passing day, reminding me that we could do what was right. I learned that facing impossible situations requires courage, patience, and trust in what we believe is right. Every tear shed, every racing heartbeat, and every fear overcome turned into learning and resilience. Rebuilding Serena's routine was both a challenge and a constant learning experience, providing stability, offering affection without pressure, and ensuring she felt safe required constant attention. I learned to respect her limits, offer consistent support, and celebrate every small achievement, like a shy smile or a gesture of confidence. Each victory, no matter how small, reinforced that we were on the right path. I also discovered that patience and care can become our greatest weapons in protecting those we love. Pedro and I needed to simultaneously rebuild our emotional lives. The tension generated by the trial, Juliana's manipulations, and family conflicts left deep scars on both of us. But together, we learned to communicate, share responsibilities, and support each other without judgment. Every loving gesture, every laugh shared with Serena, became a tangible reminder that we were able to transform a painful situation into growth and unity. The pain became a learning experience, and the tension, motivation to not give up. Looking back today, I realize how much this experience transformed me. Trusting myself, remaining calm in the face of manipulation, and prioritizing the protection of those who depend on me taught me lessons I will carry with me forever. Serena is a light in our lives, and her every smile is a reminder that facing fear, anger, and exhaustion was worth it. I still feel lingering anxiety and sadness, but the sense of duty fulfilled and doing the right thing is stronger and gives me strength every day. If there's one lesson I want to share, overcoming doesn't mean the absence of pain, but rather continuing even when it's present. It means protecting those who depend on you, acting with courage and awareness, and learning to rebuild yourself after each setback. We managed to transform a situation of neglect and manipulation into a story of protection, love, and resilience. Serena won, I won, and we continue building a safe and loving future.